Hello, everyone. This is episode 13. Recorded as well on YouTube. You can see it after the recording. I'll post it up there, and it'll be uncut, hopefully. So it was a good week. The title of this podcast, of this episode, is Embracing Bootstrapper Life. And what I mean by that is that, for the first time since I started working on ClearTask, this is the first time that I sort of felt really at ease and sort of understood what bootstrapping means for me. Up to now, I sort of, thought about bootstrapping as something you risk it all, live off, really tiny money that you have and just, really struggle until you reach where you want to get to. And it dawned on me that's the wrong thinking, and it really shouldn't be like that. Bootstrapping could be very luxurious. Maybe it's not billions of dollars, but if you can control your own time, how you spend it, and what you work on, and you still have enough finances to lead a decent life, then what's the problem with that? And up to now, I was, thinking of bootstrapping as something that you really struggle, sort of this gambler personality that I've had for ages and ages. And I think if I go back to maybe an episode or two back, I sort of talked about how I want to take it easy and not go all in and take risks, more measured risks, and not where my margins are really thin and I'm not leaving a lot of room for error. And I think that's where a lot of anxiety comes in for myself. And that's where I make a lot of mistakes and decisions I make and how I treat my product and the overall business. So, I've started taking some projects, client projects. The idea is to get projects that are super small. They don't last like a week or two, where payments are not insanely amazing, but they are a little bit above of what my living expenses are. So I have some money on the side. I can start saving, and then the rest of the time I can focus on ClearTask. And this sort of thinking has shifted my way of how I am treating ClearTask. And the way I'm doing it now, I have about 70 daily active users, which I'm very happy about because, I'm thinking about a room full of 70 people who are using ClearTask on a daily basis. They log in, they manage their tasks, they talk to their team, and that's a lot of people. So even though I want to start, doing more sales, cold emailing, warm emailing, cold calls, warm calls, etc., I really want to be focused on making ClearTask the best it can be for these users, so they keep loving the product. And the users that use it are really in love with it. One of the clients, one of the project managers that uses ClearTask last week sent me a message on my phone without even talking to them. He said, "Hey, by the way, he used the word love actually. We love ClearTask. We recommended it to 2 other vendors that we work with. It's working for us. It's making us more productive. It's very clear." And they are investor-backed startup, and they keep adding a lot of people constantly. And apparently, onboarding new users is really not that hard. So I think that's one of the things that is very good about ClearTask, because you don't have to train your users. You don't have to spend a day training them. They get it. You can show them around what things are, what to expect of it, and that's it. And that's how I want to keep it. So this sort of shift on the way I think about bootstrapping, it's really allowing me to be a little bit more free, a little bit more calm, have a more collected attitude towards what I'm doing next. And I'm not in a rush. Some money is coming in from my other projects. Some money is coming in from ClearTask already. And also, I am thinking about opening the doors to having sponsors on this podcast. I'm not expecting a ton of money because I have about 200 listens per episode. And I could even start for 20 per mention on an episode, like $20 per mention, $30 per mention. And it really comes down to, I guess, 10 cents per listener. And I want to experiment with that. So if you know someone who can benefit from the crowd that is listening to these shows, which is bootstrappers like me, makers like me. So if you have a service, or if you know somebody that has a service that's looking for an advertisement, like an advertising spot, I could use the money, and it's not that cheap to, talk to the audience that is listening to this podcast. So, trying to find different ways to monetize my bootstrapper life. And I don't think I'm going to pursue the investor route, even though I never wanted it. But the more I talk about Claritas, the more success I'm having with it. The more sort of angel investors are approaching me. And every talk that I have, it involves some sort of scheme on their side of how things should work. And I don't want to do that. I care about Claritas a lot, about the users that are trusting Claritas on a daily basis, that are paying their $50 per month. And I don't want to hand over the decisions or how the product should be or how it should be run to someone that doesn't really care about either my users or Claritas in general. And maybe I'm not even meeting the right ones, but I really don't want to waste any energy in talking to investors unless somebody has a clear-cut idea about, investing their money and letting me run the show as I know best. I know that's a pipe dream. I know that's not reality. And that's one of the reasons that I'm saying that angel investment is probably, or investment in general, is probably not for me, and I'm not for it. And I really, this was sort of the first week where I really started to enjoy the bootstrapper life, where I have enough money to feed my family, to buy the extra stuff that I need, that I want, stuff that I don't need, run a product that I like, that users like, do this podcast for you guys, where I get to reflect live and share everything that's going in and around Claritas in the open, and work on projects with clients where I get to do web work for them, and web app and projects that don't require a lot of mental sort of energy to get them done. And I get to continue this path of running a product that is loved by clients. So yeah, it's been a really good week in the sense of, feeling calmer about these things. And when I had the attitude of, thinking about bootstrapping life as something where you risk it all, where you're living in, every day in super low finances, and just, that's not a way to live your life. And I don't know why I did that. I think, it goes back, I said it before in this show, I think I've always had this gambler personality where I always went all in with everything I did. So I'm trying to change that. It's been actually working quite well. The conscious decision of at least vocalizing that decision, that sort of thought, and saying, hey, I want to look at this risk-taking thing a little bit less riskier, a little bit more collected, more measured, and sort of, I can try new things, but I don't have to let go other things that I love on the side. And trying to create this, multiple income streams, I guess, unintentionally, but Claritas, clients on the side, this podcast initially. And I've always had this sort of thinking and idea to write a book about project managers who are not trained specifically, but they find themselves in their job that they get to do the project management for their staff. So it's either a small company or maybe like a developer or designer who's a little bit more senior, and they find themselves in managing clients and their staff and projects. So sort of always want to write a book about that. I've had a lot of experience. I've always found myself sort of leading a team, ending up leading a team because I was always comfortable in shuffling things around, people and tasks and milestones and deadlines, and meeting client expectations, having them realize if something is not working out and how they should postpone it, etc. And always delivering projects where they're really good, but they don't have to be perfect where everybody's going crazy, either from the staff side or client side. So I've always felt comfortable, and I've always gotten like compliments that I'm really good at that. And that's probably one of the reasons why I got into doing project management app like Claritask, because I want to facilitate that sort of ease of managing tasks. And that's the whole idea behind this whole thing that I'm doing, I guess. So, yeah. So I got great feedback on the new website, which I launched last week. There's a lot more work to do, especially on the user guide side of things, where I want to add more videos and how-tos, etc. So people, once they log in, once they register, they can get small bite-sized videos of how to use Claritask. So yeah. That's the whole week in a nutshell. And I had a presentation of Claritask to the local crowd, and it was really good. I felt good doing it. I feel good presenting Claritask in general. And what I did with the presentation, it was supposed to be sort of a demo day. That's how it was advertised. But I sort of went back talking about how everything started, the whole story. So when I first started in 2012, I was running a web design shop, and we sort of started tinkering with making a product and launched our first product in 2013, and how that sort of led all the way to here and all the pitfalls and everything. And I had this idea how I, my road to here from that 2012 when I started with making products, I sort of always would go up and down. And what I mean by that, so I want to draw a chart and maybe attach it to this podcast, like in an image form on the show notes. But I sort of would start at zero, which I always considered working for clients. And then I would go back up to a certain point, to a certain MRR, and leaving clients behind, having no income. I would have to come back down again to earth. So I'll go up. And this is the past 6 or 7 years. So 2012, that's 7 years. So it would go back and up, back up and down, like all the time. Maybe sometimes higher and then back to zero. And then sometimes even higher and then back to zero. And sometimes smaller and back to zero. And I never had this sort of, gradual sort of build up to here. It was always back and, up and down, up and down. I think it goes back to me taking risks, like really horrible risks. And now what I'm thinking is now I'm sort of on both ends, and with one, I'm back to zero with doing client work, and then Claritask is sort of, I don't want to say accelerating, but it's sort of up in the air, it's growing, it's going up, but I'm sort of in both these two spots, and as I want to reach that sort of, I guess I can say the moon, like the moon would be the 10,000 K. I don't know if I'm following this metaphor. But, the moon would be 10,000 K. I never was able to reach it. I would get to a point, hop in the air, and then I would drop back down to earth and then up and down. So now I'm like sort of on the earth, and I'm sort of leaving the earth with Claritask, but I still want to keep my feet on the ground. And then I think, as I'm elongating this sort of success to reaching Claritask, I think the sort of rocket is a little bigger than the other times, and sort of getting to the moon sort of together, maybe it's like an elevator to the moon, like those sort of, ideas about having an elevator that goes up in the stratosphere. Yeah. I don't know about this analogy or, if that's working, but that's sort of what I'm thinking, like this time around, my feet are on the ground, Claritask is growing, and I think the success will happen a little bit, slower, but it will sort of be this, one-way sort of ticket, one way that I will reach more safer to that, destination. That's what I'm thinking, at least, So yeah, this is the whole episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you know any sponsors that want to advertise on Claritask, I'm very open to talk to them. The crowd is makers, indie makers, bootstrappers, and the show runs every week on the weekends, or I get to talk about what's going on with Claritask, with me in general, and where the product is headed next. And if you know anyone that can benefit from the show, just please let them know, and I would highly appreciate it. Also, I want to leave. Good thing I remember this. I want to leave a Word document, not Word document, Google form. It's really late here, and I've had a long Sunday. I want to leave a Google Doc, a form with one field only, anonymously. If you can leave a note, it's on the show notes. If you can leave a note talking something about this show, why you like it, why you don't like it, what can be better technically, conceptually, what you want me to talk more about, what you don't want me to talk about more, my way of speaking, etc. I would love to hear your thoughts. You don't have to leave your name. It's going to be one field only. You can leave it anonymously, and I would love your thoughts. Thanks for listening on the lucky episode 13, and I will see you next week. Bye.